Recording in progress. Ok, muy bien. Entonces, hoy vamos a empezar con el capítulo 2, pero antes de empezar con el capítulo 2, porque vamos a hablar sobre la fonética, la fonología, y eso es lo que, una de las cosas que más me gusta a mí, eso de la fonética y la fonología, los sonidos, cómo procesamos los sonidos, cómo producimos los sonidos y cómo varían los sonidos de lengua en lengua. Pero vamos a ver, repito, un video sobre el tema de la fonética, entonces, que está en este canal que me gusta mucho, que se llama Native Lang. A ver si me... compartir sonido. Vamos a ver, solo de como unos casi 6 minutos, pero vamos a escuchar. A ver.
Kissing.
Can you hear that? ¿Pueden escuchar eso?
Clicking, sputtering. These are just some of the odd sounds that people around the world actually use to speak. Come hear these unusual phonemes, try them out yourself, and find out which one of them is something you say every day in English. Weird sounds in world languages. Not my normal fare, but I'm feeling something light before we get into more linguistic tales. Let's go. A row of languages all lined up in Africa have a sound written GB, GB. So when you run across this name of a dance from the Côte d'Ivoire, you might be tempted to go French on it and call it gbe gbe. But notice that tie on the top, it's one single sound. To make it, bring your tongue up to the soft palate and make a g. But also close and release your lips during that g for a combo gb sound. Ba, be, be. There's a voiceless form too. Be. In the World Atlas of Language Structures, with its cross-language data on common and uncommon sounds, these are rare enough that they're only in 8% of the languages sampled. Can you putter your lips like if you're cold? Brrr. That's a bilabial trill, phonetically speaking. Don't pat yourself on the back for it, though. A number of languages use poo and bru sounds. But in the far reaches of Brazil, deep in the Amazon, live the Pirahã, a people whose language has stirred up some linguistic controversy. One of its unusual features is a bilabial trilled affricate. To make it, they hold their tongue in position for a T sound against the teeth, then release it with that sputtering lip trill. I see why this sound is rare. This next type of sound might be more familiar to some of you out there, pharyngeals. The pharynx is straight in the back of your mouth, where the nasal cavity connects to the throat, connects to the voice box. If you bring the base, the root of the tongue, way back, the restricted airflow makes the sound. Am I breathing in your ear? This isn't creepy at all. Voice that sound, and it's ah. Do you know which major world language has sounds close to both of these and expects you to tell them apart from nearby glottal h and velar ch? It's Arabic and other Afroasiatic languages. In all, pharyngeals can be found in only 4% of the languages in that world sample. A Spanish island in the Canaries off the coast of Africa, La Gomera, makes some intriguing noises. Unlike the previous examples, their oddity isn't a sound, it's actually a whole way of speaking using whistles. It's called el silbo, the whistle, by locals who use high or low frequency, combined with either flows or breaks to communicate both vowels and consonants. The West African ba, that lippy trill in Brazil, pharyngeals in Semitic, so far our rares are clustered in hot zones. But this next rarity is found all around the planet. Prepare your tongue for dental fricatives. You won't really need much practice though, because English has them. Putting the tongue up against the teeth and pushing a stream of airflow around it this way is only done in somewhat over 7% of that world language sample. All right, English. You know how French is infamous for its nasal sounds? French got them when a nosy sound spread one vowel over. That happens, but nasal spreading doesn't have to stop there. Spread away through vowels, through consonants, until whole stretches of sounds become downright infected with the nasal. Like in the Apena language of Colombia, where siaso comes out as siason. Lots of odd consonants so far, but I found some fun vowels along a river in Oaxaca, Mexico, in a town where they speak a Mazatec language. For every one normal vowel you give them, they have 3 for you. Normal ah, which linguists call modal voice, but also breathy voice ah, and creaky voice ah. They even do this with nasals ah, ah, ah. Add to this that they also have tones, all these consonants you've never tried to tell apart, and even their own whistle speech, and you've got yourself a mouthful. One last one before we go. Time for the oddest speech sounds out there. Making their home in the southwest of Africa are the Khoisan languages. This isn't a single family, even though mass comparison struck again. It's a cluster of families renowned for possessing entire sets of sounds, called cliques. This is a kiss, I mean a bilabial click. Kind of even looks like a kiss. To make it, speakers close their tongue against the back of the mouth, and also close both lips, but don't purse them. 2 closures. Then, using the tongue, they suck a pocket of air into that enclosed area. Finally, they let go of the lips, and out pops a trapping air between 2 closures and then releasing the front closure can be applied to your teeth, the side of your mouth, the roof of your mouth. So much clicking! Click languages accounted for just 1.8% of that world language sample. Well, see, our world's languages are full of all kinds of meaningful, strange sounds. Maybe we'll take a linguistic trip to one of these hotspots and investigate further. Until then, stick around and subscribe for language.
Muy bien. Entonces, como pueden deducir, vamos a hablar bueno, de la ciencia de los sonidos. Entonces, hablamos de la teoría de la historia de la lingüística, hablamos ya de Chomsky, hablamos de Saussure y también la historia de la lingüística como antes era algo prescriptivista y ahora es algo mayormente descriptivista. Pero ahora vamos a hablar de, digamos, subcampos de la lingüística, subfields de la lingüística, subdisciplinas. Y en el capítulo 2 vamos a empezar con lo que es la fonética y la fonología. Entonces empecemos. A ver, vamos a empezar from the beginning. Ok, entonces, 2 términos súper importantes que tenemos que recordar ahora son la fonética y la fonología. Entonces, la fonética es la ciencia que estudia la producción, la transmisión y la recepción de los sonidos. Es algo más concreto, más físico básicamente. Describe propiedades físicas, describe lo que se puede observar y se oye. Básicamente la fonética es lo que escuchamos, lo que sale de la boca, los sonidos al salir de la boca. La fonología es algo relacionado, pero investiga la organización de los sonidos en una lengua y es más abstracto, más abstracta la fonología, más teórica. Entonces, básicamente podemos dividir esos 2 términos. La fonología es lo que está en la cabeza, las representaciones mentales que tenemos de los sonidos en una lengua, y la fonética es lo que sale de la boca. La fonética es lo que sale de lo que escuchamos. Entonces, lo que están escuchando ahora es la fonética. Cuando hablamos, todo lo que escuchamos es la fonética. Pero cuando pensamos en sonido, cuando pensamos en representaciones de sonido, eso es lo que es la fonología, la representación, digamos, mental, sistemática, la representación sistemática o mental de un sonido o de los sonidos que tenemos aquí en la cabeza. Y eso varía de lengua en lengua. Entonces, la fonética es diferente de lengua en lengua. Claro que hay coincidencia, hay sonido parecido, pero también el sistema de cada lengua es diferente. Y de hecho, tenemos dialectos o variedades de la misma lengua que también tienen una fonética distinta. Entonces, ¿alguna pregunta hasta ahí sobre la fonética y la fonología, la diferencia? So, phonetics and phonology, fonética y fonología. Fonética física es algo físico, algo que se escucha. Cuando hablamos, eso es algo fonético. La fonología es la representación mental del sistema que tenemos aquí en la cabeza. Entonces, si digo el sonido B, I got a certain representation in my head of that sound B. And in different contexts, maybe that sound like if I say bebé, the word bebé, Spanish speaker says the first B different than the second B. So those differences are phonetic, but the representation is one sound, and that's the phonological element. Does that make sense? ¿Hay alguna pregunta? Sí, claro, todo quedó claro como agua, como chocolate. Claro como agua, como chocolate. Ok, parece que quedó claro como agua. Entonces, muy bien. Entonces, ¿qué es tenemos otro término ahora. Vamos a hablar primero de los fonemas. En la lectura, ¿qué es un fonema? Si recuerdan, cuando hablamos de los atributos de una lengua, hablamos de unidades discretas y también que si cambiamos peso y beso, por ejemplo, si cambiamos la P por la B, el significado de la palabra cambia. Eso es lo que es un fonema. Un fonema es un sonido contrastivo en una lengua y cuando representamos un fonema, I'm going to start using a whiteboard. I tried doing this with the Zoom whiteboard and it looks like a 2-year-old drawing because I don't have a touch screen. I'm just using my mouse. So I'm just going to start using a whiteboard. But if we're going to represent el fonema B, entonces ese fonema, the sound B as a fonema, we write it as that. So it goes between those slashes. So va entre barras oblicuas. So if we're talking about two phonemas in Spanish, we have B and P. We represent them as that. They're two phonemas. And so if I say beso and peso, those are phonemic representations or representations of the phoneme. And this is crucial. They go between the barras oblicuas, the slashes, I guess you could say. Y entonces, ¿qué quiere decir contrastivo? ¿Se acuerdan del primer capítulo? ¿Qué es contrastivo? I kind of just showed you. ¿Qué es contrastivo? ¿Qué quiere decir contrastivo? The contrast. What does that mean? Or you can just look at the next bullet point and there's the answer. I should probably put flash animations on these to have them come in. Pero básicamente significa que si cambias el fonema, cambias el significado de la palabra o la palabra cambia. Entonces, we have the same thing in English. In English, we have the words sip and zip. So if we look at the words sip and zip, we know that the two phonemes, the contrastive unidades contrastivas son s y z in English. S y z in English. So the phonemes in each language vary. So you don't have the same phonemes in each language. We have s y z as phonemes in English, but they're not phonemes in Spanish. If I say the word mismo and mismo, does that change the meaning of the word? Does that change the word? Give you a hint. It starts with n and ends with o. No, it does not change the meaning of the word. So s and z are not contrastive in Spanish, or they're not phonemes in Spanish, whereas p y b are phonemes in Spanish. En la palabra peso, entonces tenemos un fonema básicamente ahí, entre la P y la B. Entonces, we can also have other phonemes in the word peso. So if I change out the E and the A, I get paso y pesos. That means that E and A, oh, whoops, let me change that. E y A in Spanish son fonemas. Sorry about my messy writing. Son fonemas. You could also change out the O. So peso and pesa. So O and A are fonemas. Entonces, O and A are fonemas en español. Entonces, hay varios fonemas ahí en la palabra peso. Entonces, muy bien. How about una actividad, algo individual ahora? Indíquenme o díganme, le voy a dar como 2 minutos para que lo determinen. La palabra guerra. ¿Cuántos fonemas hay en la palabra guerra? So that means switching out each individual sound for another sound and seeing how many fonemas there are in guerra. Le voy a dar como 2 minutos para que vayan experimentando, para que vean cuántos fonemas hay en la palabra guerra. Adelante. Voy a desactivar mi micrófono para que puedan concentrar y si tienen una pregunta solo avísenme. 2 minutos o 3 minutos, 3 minutos.
Sorry, I have a question.
Yes, adelante.
Could you repeat the activity again that we have to do?
Yeah, you just find out how many phonemes are in the word guerra. So you start switching out individual sounds and see if they form a different word, and that'll give you the idea of, with peso and beso, you could also say peso and pesa, so switch the O and the A, or paso and peso, switch the E and the A, and that tells you how many different phonemes there are, or contrastive sounds there are in that word. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
And it's only one at a time. It's only one at a time. Don't do two at a time.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it was kind of a trick. Each sound in the word is a fonema. So you can switch it out. If the word doesn't make sense, then obviamente es un fonema. Cada sonido. But the trick is, though, the way it's spelled. How many different sounds are there? Guerra. Guerra. That UE, GUE, is only two sounds. So it's three letters written, but it's only two sounds. So there's actually only four phonemes in there. G, E, R, and A. Guerra. Guerra. So you'd write it. We'll go over the symbols in a little bit. Something like guerra. So you will learn how to transcribe those phonemically. Guerra. So that's how you'd write it. The UE, as we chart this transcribe, you need to be careful with orthography, different orthography. But there's four different phonemes in there. G, E, R, A. So four in there. And you can switch them out. You can get gorra. You can say, okay, that U and that E are phonemes. You get go, you could get that's a really, yeah, gorra, guerra, guerra, gurra. Yeah, you really only can switch one out. Entonces, muy bien. Or you get guerro, yeah, only switch one out. Muy bien. But there are four in there. Entonces, vamos a seguir. Entonces, fonemas versus grafía. Entonces, estamos hablando de la ortografía y la representación fonémica o fonética de una palabra. Vamos a aprender símbolos para representar ciertos sonidos y tienen que distinguir entre esos símbolos y separar ese conocimiento del conocimiento ortográfico. No siempre hay una correspondencia entre el fonema y la grafía. So you do sometimes have, for example, your orthographic A is the way you write the phoneme. Entonces, your orthographic A is the phoneme. And your orthographic, I don't know, S is also S. Pero también, si tenemos algo como QUE, what sound does that make? It makes a K sound. Q, just QU, K, or QU is K. So that'd be represented as that right there. So your QUE would be represented phonemically as a KE right there. Un ejemplo de castellano, las grafías I y G y X pueden representarse con el mismo fonema G. Jesuita, general, México. La grafía C también se representa por fonema diferente. K y en España la Z, casa, casa y cena, o cena, cena y cena. Entonces, these are all, what we're trying to do is, there's a system called the International Phonetic Alphabet that we're going to be using that represents the sounds. And so what you got to do is remember to separate orthography from the sound. And there hay grafías que no tienen representación fonémica. Hormiga, that H is silent. So if you're going to represent its phonemes, that H is not a phoneme. That's just an orthographic symbol. When you say it, you don't say hormiga, you say hormiga. So the H does not represent a phoneme. With guerra, that U does not represent a phoneme either because it does not, it is not pronounced. ¿Alguna pregunta ahí? We're going to go over the symbols. Don't worry. We'll go over the sounds and the symbols. Entonces, muy bien. ¿Alguna pregunta hasta ahí? ¿Ninguna pregunta? ¿Ninguna pregunta? Ok. Entonces, ¿cuáles son algunas características de los fonemas? Son unidades mínimas, porque no pueden ser analizadas, divididas, segmentadas en otras más pequeñas de realización independiente. So they're the smallest possible unit in speech, is a phoneme. Unidad distintiva, hablamos de eso en el primer capítulo, permite por oposición crear distinciones semánticas. Peso versus beso. Y unidad carente de significado, porque por sí sola no significa nada. So that P and the B, when you combine them with other sounds, they mean something, but by themselves, they don't mean anything. So unidad mínima, unidad distintiva y unidad carente de significado. Muy bien. ¿Pregunta hasta ahí? ¿Pregunta hasta ahí? So leave it up there so you can, this is up on Blackboard too. So if you want to go and pull it up. Ok, vamos a seguir. So, vamos a hablar de pares mínimos. Dos palabras que se diferencian en un solo sonido es un par mínimo, a minimal pair. So your peso, your beso, when you switch one sound out, one phoneme out, that's a minimal pair, a par mínimo. Y un par mínimo es una herramienta que usan los lingüistas como evidencia para proponer un fonema de una lengua. So what does that mean? So in English, we have sip and zip. We know, okay, sip and zip are two different words. So, okay, I can form a minimal pair, sip and zip in English. So I know that there are two phonemes in English. There's a sound and a z sound. Does that exist in Spanish? Well, then I'd look at it and I do it in Spanish. If I do something in Spanish like mismo and mismo, I don't get different words, and therefore I know that that's not, you can't form a minimal pair with S and Z in Spanish, and therefore they are not phonemes in Spanish. Un par mínimo, como les dije, es la forma, una forma en que los lingüistas proponen evidencia para hablar de fonemas en una lengua. If something's a phoneme in a language, that's one of the tools that they use, pares mínimos. ¿Alguna pregunta hasta ahí? ¿Alguna pregunta hasta ahí? ¿Ninguna pregunta? Okay. We haven't gone over. Let me stop share real quickly. Okay. Entonces vamos a clasificar los sonidos y vamos a empezar por las consonantes. Entonces, before we write them out, we got to figure out how to classify them. What are their symbols and everything. And this is also, si van a la página, I don't know what your pages are like in the versions you got. But page 82 in the second version, you got a table 211. Those are the phoneme, the consonant phonemes in Spanish. Entonces, ¿una pregunta hasta ahí? ¿Una pregunta hasta ahí? Okay. So we are going to talk about how to classify them. Entonces, en términos generales hay sonidos consonánticos y vamos a hablar de esos sonidos, sonidos vocálicos, vowels, y sonidos semivocálicos. Y de esos tres tipos vamos a hablar. Una consonante se define como una obstrucción o un impedimento al paso libre del aire durante la articulación. Hay 20 consonantes en español y podemos pensar en varios ejemplos como P, D, K. Y una vocal es el aire pasa por la cavidad bucal, o sea, la boca sin obstáculos. Y en español hay solo 5 vocales, A, E, I, O, U. ¿Cuántas vocales creen que hay en inglés? A ver. ¿Cuántas vocales hay en inglés? ¿Hay alguien que sepa, alguien que me diga? A ver, a ver. Depende de la región. En cierta parte del mundo angloparlante hay como hasta 13 vocales. En otra parte hay como 10, pero en todo caso el inglés tiene mucho más vocales que el español. Y algo interesante, como resultado de eso, los acentos en español se basan mayormente en diferencias consonánticas. So your Spanish accents are based primarily on differences in the pronunciation of consonants. Por ejemplo, yo me llamo, pero si van a Argentina, yo me llamo. Cuatro veces en México, 4 veces en Chile. Cena en América Latina, cena en Madrid, por ejemplo. Caballo en, digamos, México, pero en los Andes, en la región andina de Perú y Ecuador, caballo, caballo, una pronunciación distinta. Esas son diferencias a base de la consonante. En inglés es lo contrario, las consonantes son más o menos como constantes. No es decir que siempre sean constantes, pero hay más constancia consonántica en inglés de lo que hay en español. En el inglés las consonantes se dividen, los acentos se determinan muchas veces a base de las vocales. The vowels are what's different in English accents. So one example that we talked about the other day that confuses my kids. Here in Texas and in other parts of the South, you have this merger, pin-pen merger, where it all becomes kind of like a sound like peeing. And someone's like, and from someone from the West Coast, it's like, are you talking about this? Or are you talking about, I don't have a pin on me. Yeah, I don't have a pin on me, but like the pin of your credit card, or like a needle pin or something like that. Peeing. That's the P and the N are the same. The difference is the vowel. Por ejemplo, tengo un profe, que para él no hay diferencia entre las palabras, las palabras Dawn, the names Dawn y Dawn. Entonces, conocí a una señora de Nueva York que se llamaba Dawn, D-A-W-N, y le dijo Dawn. Ella se molestó, me dijo, yo no me llamo Dawn. Dawn es un nombre de hombre. Mi nombre es Dawn. So that's a vowel difference. Dawn and Dawn. So that's called the cot and caught merger in English. So cot, C-O-T, is pronounced caught, and then C-A-U-G-H-T is pronounced something like caught. Is there anyone with that vowel in their dialect of English? Because I am terrible at pronouncing it. I sound like I'm trying to imitate like a stereotypical like New Yorker, like caught. I caught my dog or something like that, and I sound really bad because I don't have that in my vowels. But it's like caught. I don't know. Can you hear the difference between caught, dawn? Entonces hay diferencia ahí en las vocales. Hay otra diferencia vocálica por ejemplo, mi hermano vivió 2 años. My brother lived for 2 years in Ireland, and he was in this place in Southern Ireland, and they said, make an American accent. And he's like, how do I make an American accent? So the phrase, how now, brown cow, just fascinated them. He said, how now, brown cow? They said, hi nai brain kai. So that's another vowel difference right there. Hi nai brain kai. And that was in Southern Ireland. There's other places of Ireland Ireland's got a lot of vowel differences from and little dialects as well. Pero el punto que estoy tratando de comunicar es que los acentos de español se dividen muchas veces, en la mayoría de las veces, a base de la diferencia consonántica, y lo contrario es cierto en inglés. Los acentos en inglés se basan en diferencias vocálicas, entonces hay más estabilidad consonántica en el inglés. ¿Hay alguna pregunta? Can anyone think of any vowel differences in Texas English that are from other, Midwestern English or West Coast or East Coast English? Besides peeing or teeing?
Oil.
Oil. So how do they say here?
Oh.
Yeah. And when I was in Indiana, there's some people in Indiana, like he put his oil in his lawnmower, oil instead of oil. And I'm like, oil? He's like, and I sent it, so I felt dumb. Oh, oil, but it's always just oil. And then places like Louisville, I'd say Louisville, and my Indiana students would cringe because it's Louisville. There's a town called Daleville. Entonces, esas son diferencias vocálicas, un schwa o una L silábica, digamos, en ese caso. Muy bien. ¿Otro ejemplo? ¿Ningún ejemplo más? ¿Ningún ejemplo más? Minnesota. If you go to Minnesota, the O's, Minnesota. If you go to the more rural areas, and then the a kind of turns into an A sound. So talk about plastic bag, dragon, hand me this bag. Someone told me to go to the store to buy some, it's called the Green Dragon. They go, yeah, go to the Green Dragon. And I literally sat there for like 30 seconds. What's this, a dragon? Oh, dragon, like dragon. So, otra vez, solo para demostrar las diferencias son vocálicas en el inglés. Muy bien. Entonces, esto es importante. Cuando clasificamos las consonantes, hay 3 parámetros para la clasificación de las consonantes. Punto de articulación, o sea, ¿dónde está la lengua o dónde hacen contacto los órganos articulatorios? So, like, if I'm talking about punto de articulación with a B sound, it's going to be bilabial or bilabial. Why? Because your lips are coming together and touching. Bilabial. Si estoy hablando de un punto de articulación, por ejemplo, de la Z en España, that would be interdental. ¿Por qué? Porque la lengua se mete entre los dientes. Entonces, si voy a decir cena, si pueden ver, cena. Entonces, eso es, first of all, this is an advantage for this class being on Zoom, because if I was wearing a mask in class, I couldn't show you any of this. I'm like, just trust me, my tongue's right between my teeth, licking my mask. Anyway, but cena, so it's interdental. Entonces, punto de articulación es donde hacen contacto o se aproximan los órganos articulatorios. Y los órganos articulatorios son la lengua, los dientes inferiores, because you can't, I don't know anyone who can move their upper jaw like alien style. It's just the lower jaw. Labios, lengua, dientes, y el velo. You've got your hard palate and your soft palate, which is your velo. Those are it. And sometimes if you go further back, you've got, your glottis. We have glottal stops in English. Like when a kid says, I want an apple, that is a glottal, es a órgano articulatorio. Entonces hay órganos articulatorios activos y pasivos. Los activos son los que se mueven y los pasivos son los que no se mueven. So your upper teeth would be like and your hard palate would be like articuladores como pasivos, and your tongue, your lips, your velo, your soft palate, those would be like active ones because they can move when you're articulating sounds. Modo de articulación es cómo fluye el aire. How obstructed is the air basically with the consonant? Is it completely obstructed like with a B or a P or even a T or a B or P where your mouth is closed, that air for a brief second no puede salir, está atrapado el aire. También con una T, por un segundo o una porción, un milisegundo, lo que sea, ese aire está atrapado en la boca porque se crea una obstrucción entre, por ejemplo, la T, la lengua y los dientes. So that T is moving up, your tongue is moving out, touching your teeth, and for a brief second, that air can't get out because of that obstacle. That it's how the air flows. But with an S, for example, your tongue touches up like right here, that wrinkly part right behind your teeth. We'll talk about what it's called. But the air is still flowing. So that's a different modo de articulación, porque el aire fluye de manera diferente. When you pronounce an L, like or an English L also like bottle, there's always a flow of air, at least around one side of the tongue. So that's a different kind of modo de articulación. So try to make it so go, you'll feel the air kind of wrapping around your tongue right there. And like the L in like los. So there's always air wrapping around the tongue right there. So that's a different modo de articulación. Otro modo de articulación is nasal. So if you say no sé, la palabra es un animal. Ñandú, ñandú. Say that and you'll feel ñandú. You'll feel the air coming out your nose, your nasal cavity. So what happens there is your velo goes down a bit, kind of blocks some of the air from going out of your mouth. Some of it still makes it out, but most of it goes up through your nasal cavity and out of your nose. So just do an N, and you can feel it. Pongan los dedos aquí debajo de la nariz y pueden sentir el flujo del aire al salir de la nariz. Eso es otro modo de articulación, el modo nasal. Entonces, vamos a hablar de todos esos modos de articulación, pero solo les quiero demostrar lo que quiere decir modo. Modo tiene que ver con el flujo del aire, cómo está fluyendo, qué tan impedido está y por dónde, por la boca, por la nariz, está completamente ocluido o está semi impedido, y eso determina el modo de articulación. Y luego, la actividad de las cuerdas vocales. O sea, ¿el sonido se produce con actividad en la cuerda vocales o no? La diferencia, por ejemplo, en inglés, entre estos dos fonemas. S y z. If you put your hands over your cuerdas vocales, you say s, no sienten nada. So, s, no sienten nada aquí. Pero dicen, si dicen z, entonces pueden sentir que las cuerdas vocales están en marcha, se están vibrando. Zzz. Entonces, esa es la diferencia. Los sonidos, las consonantes, se producen con actividad y sin actividad de las cuerdas vocales. Y así las clasificamos. Entonces, punto, modo y voz. The last one they call voz, actividad de las cuerdas vocales. Esos son los 3 parámetros para la clasificación de la consonante. Punto, modo y voz. ¿Alguna pregunta hasta ahí? So this is the cool part. Like, it's almost like open book for every test, because just, you know, you can sit there like and find out where like a sound is or something like that. And, you know, tests in person are always interesting because we're like la la, trying to, you know, find out where their tongue is and everything. Pero eso es lo que pueden hacer para, si no, okay, ¿cómo se pronuncia la L? Okay, that's where my tongue is, and the air is flowing, and so you can deduce it by that. ¿Alguna pregunta hasta ahí? Remember, that is like the, you know, the Holy Trinity, or if you, I don't want to use religious language, the Triforce of phonetics. Entonces, punto, modo y voz. Let's go with Triforce because I don't want to offend anyone. Triforce of phonetics. La trifuerza de la fonética. Punto, modo y voz, cuando estamos hablando de las consonantes. Y eso solo de las consonantes, porque las vocales se clasifican de forma distinta. Pero ahora, hoy y mañana, en la próxima clase, vamos a hablar solamente de las consonantes. ¿Alguna pregunta hasta ahí? ¿Ninguna pregunta? Ok. Entonces, punto. Vamos a hablar del punto de articulación. La articulación de la consonante, como hablamos delante, depende de la coordinación de los articuladores activos y articuladores pasivos. Los articuladores activos son los que se mueven. Son los labios, la lengua y el velo del paladar. So your soft palate, basically, your velum in the back, right where that, what is that? Your uvula is hanging from. That soft tissue. If you move your tongue back like this, you almost can get it to the back palate. And then you feel this kind of, if you go back, you feel like this raising of the, you can't really get back there. It's like this, como una subida cóncava, algo así. It's like the bowl shape, the reverse bowl shape. That's your soft palate. That's what moves up and down. Los articuladores pasivos son los que no se mueven. Son los dientes, aunque I would say your dientes, I guess I was wrong with that. Your dientes don't move, but your lower jaw can move. So that's kind of active because your jaw can move back and forth and all around. But for the purposes of it, let's just say dientes, all dientes are pasivos. Los dientes, los alvéolos no lo confundan con los alvéolos de los pulmones. You've got alvéolos en los pulmones, pero los alvéolos tienen sus encías, y detrás de las encías, a wrinkly thing back there, a wrinkly ridge behind your teeth, those are your alvéolos. Right, so right there. I don't know, you can't really see it. You probably don't want to see it, you know, into the profe's mouth or anything. but S right here, right behind your teeth. So if you make an S sound in English, you can feel just below the tip of your tongue is touching the alveolar ridge or the alveolos, right behind your teeth. That wrinkly thing right there. El punto de articulación indica dónde están los órganos, dónde hacen contacto o dónde se aproximan. Because sometimes they don't touch completely, but they get close to each other and that still modifies the flow of air. Pero el punto de articulación indica los órganos que están en contacto o los que se aproximan. ¿Preguntas sobre el punto de articulación? ¿Ninguna pregunta? Whoops. Gotta share that. ¿Ninguna pregunta sobre el punto de articulación? Okay. Pifio del profe. Ahí está. No, that's not it. Perdón. Apreté el botón equivocado. Ahí está. Entonces, tenemos punto de articulación bilabial. Bilabial. So, write these symbols down also. Those are symbols for different phonemes. Bilabial, hay contacto entre el labio inferior y el labio superior. En este caso, los dos articuladores son activos. Entonces, en el caso de las consonantes bilabiales, ambos articuladores son activos porque se mueven, porque obviamente los labios se controlan con músculo y entonces se pueden mover. Entonces, en el español tenemos 3 fonemas consonánticos bilabiales. So let me write this down. Bilabiales. We're just talking about phonemes right now. You have your P, your P, B, and your Entonces, estas son las consonantes con punto de articulación bilabial en español. Entonces, ejemplos son pata, bata, mata. Entonces, ¿preguntas sobre punto de articulación bilabial? Ok. Labio dental, punto de articulación labio dental. Cuando los labios o el labio inferior, que es el articulador activo en ese caso, hace contacto con los dientes superiores. Entonces, solo tenemos labio dental. Solo tenemos un fonema en español. Es F. In English, think about it. How many labiodental phonemes do we have in English? We have F. Do we have another one? In English, a labiodental.
V sort of sounds like it, maybe.
Yeah, V is labiodental. The difference between P and V is both. F and V. Vocal cords aren't moving. Vocal cords are moving. So in English, we have 2 labiodental phonemes, but in Spanish, we only have 1 labiodental phoneme. Palabra como fama, por ejemplo. So a minimal pair that you could make in English would be fan and van. 2 different words. And when you switch the sounds out, those 2 sounds out. So, and it's always your lower lip with the upper teeth. I don't know any sound where it's your upper lip with your lower teeth. Try even doing that. I can't there you go, kind of like that. You can't really make it sound like that. So, and it's not the lower teeth with the lower thing. You just go, so it's always the lower with the upper with labiodental. Unless maybe there's a language that does that, but it's a language I don't know. Entonces, and I haven't heard of yet. So, interdental. Entonces, aquí estamos más para atrás en la boca. Interdental. And this is only a phoneme in Spain. This is only a phoneme in Spain. El ápice, o sea, la punta de la lengua hace contacto entre los dientes superiores e inferiores y solo ocurre en España. Entonces tenemos este símbolo, se llama la Z, but that's the symbol for the interdental phoneme in Spanish. So zapato, in Latin America would be zapato, pero en España, zapato. Zapato, o sea, zapato. Entonces, ¿pregunta? So, en este caso, a ver si alguien me puede decir, tenemos los dientes y la lengua. ¿Cuál es el articulador activo y cuál es el pasivo en este caso? A ver. A ver. ¿Cuál es el activo y cuál es el pasivo? Digan zapato, zapato. What's moving and what isn't moving?
The tongue is moving.
Sí, ok, muy bien. So, la lengua es el articulador activo y los dientes son los pasivos. Muy bien. Sí, son los pasivos. Muy bien. Ok, dental. We'll just go dental, not apidodental, but dental. So the difference is interdental, it goes between the teeth. Dental, it just comes up and touches the back of the teeth. And in Spanish, you have T and D. So this is a big difference between English T and D and Spanish T and D. English T and D, do an English T go like, I don't know, say the word Tom, the name Tom, and then say the word todo, todo. So Tom, your tongue in English is hitting your alveolar ridge, that back of your gums, that bony, like wrinkly part behind your teeth. Whereas in Spanish, if you say todo, todo, the tongue, the point of the tongue is touching the back of your teeth. Todo, todo. Let me show you how it is in Spanish. Let's go to, hay una página en internet, de internet que funciona muy bien para el aprendizaje de esos sonidos. Sounds of Speech, University of Iowa. I'll send it the link in, I'll put the link right in the chat so you can go to that as well. But it is a good resource for showing how things are articulated. So we see the Spanish T right here. See how it's articulated. See share sound. Okay. Whereas English T, they used to have an English version of this, but they don't anymore. English T is a few, maybe a centimeter or less, right up here on the alveolar ridge, the pink part right up above the teeth. And that makes a difference. That's where you get the difference between todo and todo, 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 todo. It's just a difference of a few, like, I don't even know if it's even a centimeter, but a punto de articulación. So the T and the D in Spanish are both dental phonemes. So the Spanish D, D. Once again, tongue hitting the back of your teeth. D, y, t. Not d, y, t, like in English, where your tongue comes up, here your teeth, and it touches your alveolar ridge right here. It actually just touches your teeth. Entonces, I'm about to do like an Hadouken. A Duke. Anyway, ¿alguna pregunta sobre T y D, las consonantes dentales? So that's something that sometimes students don't realize, that the T and the D in Spanish are in fact diferentes. Entonces, muy bien. Entonces hay dos fonemas dentales en el español. Ápico alveolar. So it means the point of the tongue touches right out here, the alveolar ridge, right behind your teeth. Contacto entre el ápice de la lengua, o sea, la punta de la lengua, y los alveolos. Y hay varios fonemas así en español. Tenemos ápico alveolar, and we have L and both R's. Your first one is your double R, and your second one is the symbol for your single R. So, sí, tenemos alveolares, entonces, N, L, R y R. Entonces, pana, pala, parra, para. If you say those words, feel where your tongue's touching. Pana, pala, parra, para. If we go to the sounds of speech again, we can see, por ejemplo, let's go and just regular N. So you see what else is happening also. It's nasal. We'll get to modo, nasal. See how the velo, el velo, like your soft palate, el velo baja y el aire pasa mayormente por la cavidad nasal. Pero punto de articulación es ápico alveolar. Y si vamos a las líquidas, las R. So we have our single R right here.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Once again, just kind of touching up there.
Yeah.
And then the weird one that makes you not want to eat lunch, double R. Kind of tickle the back of your teeth. Entonces, pero es alveolar. El punto es que es alveolar. El punto de articulación es alveolar. If we go to the L también. I just, it is punto de articulación ápico alveolar también. A ver, ¿alguna pregunta sobre la consonante ápico alveolares? ¿Ninguna pregunta? Everyone on just a huge totes dope endorphin high right now? See? That's how you speak still, right? Totes dope. Okay, I mean, this is going up on, I'm recording this too, so my bad jokes are there forever. Okay, muy bien. Predorso alveolar. So you're moving back in the tongue, but it still touches the alveolar ridge. So a different part of the tongue is touching the alveolar ridge. Whereas the first one, era la punta que estaba tocando. Ahora, un poco más atrás, like the kind of the center of the tongue is touching it. So if you say S, like S, you'll see that it's not the punta de la lengua, sino el predorso de la lengua. So predorso alveolar, and this is just a Latin American S. Entonces, predorso alveolar is just a Latin American S. Contacto entre el predorso de la lengua, just a little bit front of center of the lengua, y los alveolos, la S, en América Latina. La S en España un poco diferente, es ápico alveolar. So you have, Spain's S is a little bit different. They have that sh, like a sh sound. So it's like gracias, gracias. And that's they make that by, with the point of the tip of the tongue touching the alveolar ridge. Entonces, pero no vamos a hablar de eso ahora. ¿Pregunta hasta ahora sobre punto de articulación? Okay. Predorso, I just say prepalatal. Just you can reduce this to prepalatal. Prepalatal. These sounds right here, the first one is the sound for ch, the symbol for ch, so your ch. And the second one is the symbol for sh, like sho me llamo, sh. So the first one ch, second one sh. So for example, chato, and then in Buenos Aires sería maisho, maisho. Contacto entre el dorso de la lengua y un poco más atrás, just right before your palate. So kind of right between your hard palate and your alveolar ridge, just make the same sound ch, ch, ch. Where your tongue is hitting ch, it's kind of right between the alveolar ridge and your hard palate, ch, ch. So symbol wise, those are important symbols to know. That ch, that T looks like a T and a long S, that's your ch, and that kind of long S that looks like I think it's a rest or something from music. That is actually a sh sound, sh. And interestingly enough, it's only a phoneme in Argentina and Uruguay. You don't have it as a phoneme in any other place of the Spanish-speaking world. It is a phoneme in English, though. Shoot and no, shot and no, shot, shot, shot. Show and no, chose not a word either. But you get the point. It's a phoneme. I can't think of an example right now. Entonces, but it's a phoneme in English. Muy bien. ¿Pregunta? Okay, tenemos dorso palatal. Dorso palatal means middle of the tongue with the hard palate. El paladar duro. Contacto entre el dorso de la lengua y el paladar duro. Dorso palatal. Is there todavía punto de articulación? That first symbol, that's your ñ, ña, ña. So go ña, ña. You'll feel the middle of your tongue kind of touching your hard palate. Ña, ña. Second symbol is your y sound, like yo me llamo, like yo. That's your y sound. And this one is interesting. The third one, in some countries, they distinguish, let me get that's the chat. In some countries, they distinguish between orthographic Y and double L. So the words callo, like I shut up, and callo, like callous, are pronounced differently. Callo is normal Y, And the double L is caillo, caillo. No sé si hay alguien que tenga experiencia aquí con portugués o italiano. ¿Hay alguien aquí que sepa un poco de portugués o italiano? It's this upside down, this sound, that is represented as that upside down kind of Y, is a phoneme in Portuguese, but it's a sound. So caillo, caillo. Can you hear the difference over Zoom? Caillo, 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 caillo. It's like one way to do it. Try to make an L, like so make an L, a normal L, and instead then of having the punta de la lengua touch the alveolar ridge, raise the middle of your tongue and have it touch your palate and try to make an L like that. So if we go to sounds of speech, if we go, where is that? Right there. This is how it's articulated.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is how it sounds like lluvia. You would say lluvia, like just a normal y sound. Pero en regiones como en Madrid, por ejemplo, hacen la distinción entre y, double L en Y, y también en la región andina. Pero a ver si pueden escuchar la diferencia. Y, no, y
Lluvia,
lluvia,
lluvia. Llama,
y llama, y llama.
llama,
It's like you're combining an R, a Y and an L into kind of the same sound.
caballo,
Caballo. Entonces ese es el sonido que se representa con el último fonema, y es un fonema en español, pero solo en cierto dialecto. Es solo en cierto dialecto. So those are the three dorsal palatal phonemes in Spanish. ¿Pregunta hasta ahí? ¿Ninguna pregunta? Okay. Dorso velar. Okay, so it's the same part of the tongue, but you're moving back. So dorso velar. You're moving back on the passive articulator. Dorso palatal. Contacto entre el dorso de la lengua y el velo o paladar blando. So examples of this, a k. So you make a k, a g, y that X is a j sound. J, like Mexico or jarabe, algo así. O the examples that I gave that I should have just used. Gota, gota, y jota. Entonces, if you feel your tongue go k, k, you'll feel middle of your tongue, k, k, hitting kind of the back of near your paladar blando. Gota, gota, jota. Entonces, sound of Spanish. ¿Dónde está? ¿Dónde? Okay. Okay, so k. That's what happens. K, k. And if we go to your g, same thing, but the vocal cords are moving.
G. G. G.
And the h. So it doesn't quite touch, but it moves up towards it. It doesn't quite touch. So this is a difference in modo. The others, it touches. This one, it doesn't. The air continues to flow. We'll go over modo in just a bit. ¿Pregunta? ¿Ninguna pregunta? You're just totally enthralled in all of this? Dropping knowledge bombs. All right. Ok, muy bien. Entonces, vamos a hacer una actividad ahora. Vamos a clasificar el primer sonido de cada palabra en su punto de articulación. Just the first sound of each word. Quiero que clasifiquen el primer sonido como bilabial, labio dental, dental, ápico alveolar, predorso alveolar, palato alveolar, palatal o velar. So go, and the way to do it, just go down. No, you can do it every way. Well, I'll go over each sound, but just the first sound of each word. So for example, let's do this one together. Gesto. Where's the punto de articulación en gesto? Gesto. Moving back, gesto, gesto, gesto. Velar. It's velar. So gesto. We go lluvia, lluvia, that would be palatal or dorso palatal. So that's what I want you to do. For the rest of them, the remaining, what is that, 11? No, 12 or 13. Yeah, 13. Quiero que ustedes clasifiquen el punto de articulación del primer sonido de cada palabra. Adelante. I'll mute my mic. Um, 2 minutos. Un minuto más. Ok. Entonces, vamos con vaso. Primer sonido, ¿cuál es su punto de articulación? La o el que quiera que diga nomás. ¿Qué? ¿No escucho?
Oh, es labio dental.
De vaso, vaso. Bilabial, bilabial, bilabial. Entonces, vaso es bilabial. Vaso would be, the way we'd say it in English, vaso or vase would be labiodental, as you were saying. So, vaso. In Spanish, generally, when we get into allophones and different pronunciations, we'll see that there's a lot more variation. But the general rule is the P and the B, the orthographic B and V in Spanish are pronounced the same each time. Número 4, I guess. Guerra. G. 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 ¿Cuál es?
Es velar,
Velar. G. G. Muy bien. Ciencia. Ciencia.
Alveolar.
Alveolar. Predorso, alveolar, alveolar. Si estuviéramos en España, ciencia sería interdental, interdental. Pero en América Latina sería alveolar, predorsal alveolar. Top of the next column, náhuatl. ¿Qué es? Mm, 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 mm. If some of you, just activate your mic and hay que hablar nomás.
Ápico alveolar.
Muy bien, ápico alveolar. Ápico alveolar. Muy bien. Número, right below that. Quinto. ¿Cuál es? Quinto. I see some mouths moving, but mics are off, so I can't hear you. Quinto.
Velar.
Velar. Muy bien, velar. Muy bien. Número Chihuahua. Chihuahua. So if we go back, it's this symbol right here. Prepalatal or palatal alveolar. Palato alveolar. Ch in Chihuahua. Funny thing is, if you're from Chihuahua, you probably say Chihuahua. Entonces, Chihuahua with the sh sound. But that would be an allophone. We'll talk about allophones later. In Chihuahua y Sonora. Primavera. P. What is it? P. You can move your mouth and figure out. Primavera.
Bilabial.
Bilabial, muy bien. Foco. La F. Foco.
Labio dental.
Labio dental, muy bien. Licenciada. What's touching? And where's it touching?
Alveolar.
Alveolar, ya. Ápico alveolar o just alveolar para el efecto de esta clase. Muy bien. Morder. Or mordor, looks like mortar. Morder. Morder.
Bilabial.
Bilabial, muy bien. Luego, tratado. Tratado.
Dental.
Dental, muy bien. Luego, ñaño. You've seen Monty Python, the knights who say ña. Or the way that Curly, I think, on the Three Stooges, that ña. And ña, what is it? Ña. What's it touching right there? Ña. This symbol right here, your ña. Palatal, ña. Muy bien. Y el último, rueda. Remember the little tickle the back of something? What is it? Rueda. A ver, rueda. La vez que quiera que diga nomás. Rueda.
Ápico alveolar.
Correcto. Excelente. Muy bien. ¿Alguna pregunta entonces sobre punto de articulación?
Which one
Yes.
did you say ciencia was?
Ciencia, depends on where you're from, but it could be, you'd say alveolar if you're in America Latina. Quizá predorso alveolar, if you want to be more precise. And if you're in Spain, it'd be interdental. At least in Madrid. If you're in Madrid, in central and northern Spain, interdental.
Okay, thank you.
De nada.
Si vas a poner PowerPoint and
Sí.
Blackboard?
En Blackboard,
Okay.
sí. Lo voy a colocar, sí. Muy bien. Por eso recomiendo que hagan flashcards también, porque tenemos punto, modo y voz. So for each symbol, you're going to write it's punto, it's modo, and it's voz, and then it's symbol. So punto, modo, voz. You do the ñ one, for example. And right now we've just done punto, so you'd say palatal. So ñ would be consonante, palatal, and then we'll go over modo y voz as well. The k would be consonante, velar, and then modo y voz, and then the symbol. Ch would be consonante, prepalatal o palato alveolar, and then modo y voz. And that's why I'd recommend you go through this and do flashcards to learn this. Muy bien. Okay. I think, ¿qué vamos a hacer? No, we'll do that a little. I forgot what's right here. Hold on.
15 años, 16 años.
No, we're not gonna. Ok, ahora vamos a hablar. Yo creo que vamos a quedar, nos vamos a quedar aquí para la próxima clase, pero vamos a hablar de modo. Y el modo describe el grado de obstrucción, modo de articulación, describe el grado de obstrucción o el impedimento del aire al articular un sonido. So, there are consonants with more obstruction of the air, mayor cierre, y esas consonantes son de modo oclusivo, africado o nasal. O son consonantes oclusivas, africadas y nasales. Y hay consonantes con menor cierre, menor obstrucción del aire. Esas son consonantes fricativas, aproximantes, laterales y vibrantes. So we'll leave it at that for now. But just know, modo de articulación otra vez describe el grado de obstrucción o impedimento del aire. Y hay consonante con mayor cierre y menor cierre. And it's really not categorical. It's more of like a continuum. So on one end, you have complete occlusion of the air, which are your oclusivas, and then followed by africadas and maybe nasales. And aproximantes would be on the other end. Aproximantes would be like, they're almost vowel-like in some cases because there's so little obstruction of the air. Entonces, but we'll go over that. ¿Alguna pregunta? ¿Algún chiste, chisme? ¿Nada? Ok. Entonces, con eso yo creo que vamos a terminar rapidito. Veamos el syllabus. Esto, justo después de la clase, lo voy a colocar en Blackboard. Because I only put the one and I forgot to put the other. Pero para la próxima semana, esto es lo que tienen que leer. Skip this section, obviously, because we're not going to talk about intonation, but it goes over more of the phonemes and allophones and all that stuff. ¿Ninguna pregunta? Okay.
Is there like a way, because the book that I have is online and all the pages are different.
Oh, they're different online. Okay.
Is there like a way to put the section titles in the syllabus?
Yeah, I can do that. I'll do the section titles. That'll be easier because it sounds like some people have different versions of the book. So I'll do that. I'll do that this weekend.
Okay, thank you.
Muy bien. Ok. Muy bien. Entonces, ¿hay más preguntas?
I actually have a question.
Yeah, sure.
About, like, so depending on the region where we're talking about,